Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Montgomery County Board of Education combined board meeting Tuesday, June 12, 2018, central office. Revised agenda is now called to order. Stand with our heads, please. Our Father, which art in heaven, once again we come in the mighty name of Jesus with thanksgivings. Lord, we thank you for the many, many blessings that you bestowed on each of us. Now, Lord, we ask that you will continue to hold us in your powerful arms. And Lord, guide us. Give us wisdom and knowledge such that we are able to make decisions that are in the best interest of the children, the communities, the parents, and all that take part in public education. Give us direction, our Father, and we ask for that divine intervention, such that in the end, when we go through the advanced ed as well as this intervention process, guide us, great Jehovah, and help us once again to make the best decision for the children of Montgomery Public Schools. These and all other blessings we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
We do have a quorum with 6 members in attendance. Need a motion to approve the revised agenda.
Mr. President, I move that the revised agenda be adopted as corrected.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that we approve the revised agenda. Mr. Prentice, is there any discussion?
And, Mr. President, could I suggest before we get started that we introduce Mr. Rowland?
Oh, yeah. Matter of fact, we should.
Okay, we can do that. Mr. Rowland, you couldn't do that yourself, but Mr. Rowland's gonna be working with us as an interventionist, and he's assigned to us by the State Department, and has been here about a week now, and has been very involved in some of the functions that we've been doing during the weeks that he's been here. So, Mr. Rowland, if you want to add something to that?
Yes, I just want to say thank you, and it's a wonderful opportunity to serve the young people at MPS. Obviously, that's our most important goal, and there are fantastic folks in place doing great work, and we want to continue to support them and support Dr. Moore as we change the lives of young people. Thank you for this opportunity.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Owens. And next we have, oh, yeah. Those who are in favor, let's see by show of hands. Next item on the agenda will be recognitions.
Good evening, everyone. And,
Good evening.
We've got a short, sweet recognition this afternoon with just one individual, Elizabeth Hill from Bear Exploration Center. I always just want to say Bear, but she always pops me around a little bit when I do that. Bear, come right over here, please. Bear Exploration Center is with us tonight because they've been named as a National Magnet School Merit Award winner. According to Magnet Schools of America, National Merit Awards are given to magnet schools that demonstrate a commitment to high academic standards, curriculum innovation, successful desegregation and diversity efforts, and strong parent and community involvement. This year, there were 389 magnet schools that applied for the National Merit Award, making 2018 the most competitive in the program's history. Bear was the only magnet school in the state of Alabama to win the award. So let's show our appreciation for Ms. Hill and Bear Elementary.
Number 5, you will receive as information at this time. Under A, Community Engagement Activities, Ms. Camille Finley. Both of you all, that's what I noticed. And the second one here is going to be, both are kind of connected here, and I see why the two of you came up. And that is, the second item will be the Family Engagement Activities by Ms. Felicia Dawson, and both of those at the podium at this time.
Thank you. Good afternoon, members of the board, Dr. Moore, stakeholders. Family and Community Engagement Office was created last year, July 1st, and so we've been working for the last 11, 12 months to begin to engage or re-engage members of our community and our families back into the things that we're doing here in the district. We started off with a marching orders to begin a governance board at the school level, along with parent university and some other things, and we're quick to make those changes when the opportunities presented themselves. And so, Tom, so we've created our mission to be able to integrate a system-wide sustainable family and community engagement office that works to support children in their academic performance. And our aim is to engage, encourage, and inform students, parents, stakeholders, so that our children become prepared for life. And so we started off the year with our Power of 10 Men in August, which was our first day of school initiative, where at 5 schools, our goal was to have approximately 100 men. Some of our schools had significantly more than that, and some of them had a little bit less. But the idea was to start the school year off right, to engage our students and get them excited about being at school for the first time. And so that took place at Edie Nixon, Capitol Heights, Floyd, Ballingraph, and Davis Elementary. The second thing, and it's interesting because I think during the month of May, the board expressed some concerns about weather-related incidents that were preventing students or were inhibiting attendance. And that's something that we thought about early in the year, and we began this project, Boots Umbrellas, with Davis and Nixon Elementary. And along with Leadership Montgomery, we created a donation drive to bring umbrellas, boots, and rain gear to students so that we could eliminate some of those attendance issues and tardies that prevented students from getting to school on time on those fair weather days. And so we collected over 300 items for students, and we've even had some donations as recent as last month. So we will be able to continue that with the Rotary Club is going to take that on with us, and so we'll be beginning that again in the fall.
In October, which is Parent Visitation Month, we held a fall parent expo at Eastdale Mall, which has become one of our partners in allowing us to host events in the center court at absolutely no charge, no setup fee, no breakdown fee, or anything like that. But we invited several community organizations to come out. These are organizations that could provide resources for parents. Parents were able to come out, pick up information, talk to representatives from various organizations that you see listed there. Next time. November was National Literacy Day, November 1st, so we solicited the support of our local barbers. We donated books, or the books were actually donated to us by a LAMP student who's in the 10th grade. She's a member of Spread the Word MGM, or Spread the Word Montgomery. And so we had 5 barbers to participate, encouraging parents to read to children, children to read to parents, or children to read to barbers as they were getting their haircuts or as they waited. And we're going to do this again this year, hoping to include more barbers. We've had 2 scavenger hunts at Eastdale Mall. We had one in August, which was our math scavenger hunt. Students had, and their parents had to find answers to questions that were written in word form throughout the mall. And then in February, we had an I Love Learning scavenger hunt that also included literacy-based questions based on our instructional standards. We had a great turnout for both events. Parents were really excited, but complained that some of the questions were too hard. But we informed them that that's the rigor that is practiced in the classroom, and that they need to work more with their children in order to be able to help them be more successful in the classroom.
We've hosted, I think, 4 community engagement network nights during the school year, where we invited members of the community to come out and have not even a round table, but discussions about issues and concerns that they had and trying to develop solutions for those issues and concerns. And we partner with Montgomery Education Foundation to do that. And as you can see, we hosted at Capitol Heights, Brubaker, Highland Gardens, and House Young during the school year. We also had the opportunity to implement a backpack program for Morningview Elementary, which was one of our schools that did not have a backpack program. And so with the support of the Montgomery Advertiser, the members of, or central office staff collected foodstuffs throughout the school year in order for us to support 10 children over at Morningview. In February, we had a mother-daughter Love Thyself self-defense class where mothers and daughters were able to come together. We hosted that at Bellingraph, and folks were taught some self-preservation techniques. Our goal was really to begin to provide some opportunities for parents and children in the community to re-engage in some unique events. We were also the beneficiaries of an opportunity to, for district leadership to have a field trip to the Symposium on Education in America, the Race and Implicit Bias, Saving Our Children Symposium during the EJI opening. And I think we had close to 100 district leaders, principals, central office staff to be able to attend that conversation, which was presented by Dr. Stevenson and Dr. Dillon, and they talked about the preschool to prison pipeline.
Our April event was the Summer Resource Expo for parents. We invited organizations that hosted any type of summer camp or activity for students or for kids to come out and be able to just kind of shop around, because a lot of organizations, parents were not aware that hosted summer activities such as the Montgomery Museum of Fine Arts, the Rosa Parks Museum, or the Montgomery Zoo. So they were able to sort of just get information about opportunities for their kids to participate in summer camp. And we had one organization, Wind Shape Camp, sponsored by Chick-fil-A, that actually gave away 3 free summer camps for parents who had come to the event. And one of our biggest events is when we honor our parent and community partner of the year from a school, if the school chooses to participate. This year we had 27 schools. We hosted the event at Fresh Anointing House of Worship. Each school had the opportunity to recognize one parent of the year and one community partner of the year. That was our second time hosting the event, and that's going to be an annual event for us.
We also hosted our first Montgomery Youth Forum, where we had approximately 300 students come from all of our high schools and middle schools, and we were at the Crampton Bowl, the Crampton Multiplex. They had the opportunity to have engaging conversations on conflict resolution, police brutality and police relationships. I think we as adults learned as much as the students did, and it was well-attended, well-received. We are moving that into a school-based event with the support of Leadership Montgomery to develop a Leadership Tomorrow organization, which will feed into Bridge Builders, Torchbearers, and then Leadership Montgomery. We will host 4 events during the school year where all of our students are coming together, all 300, and then monthly events on those off months at the school. And we have a school-based facilitator as well as mentors from Leadership Montgomery. We have a large variety of additional community partnerships that have allowed those organizations to come out and support a variety of things that we were doing. The bottom picture is our Medical Minute, which is the Troy University nurses come out to a couple of our schools and work with the kindergartners once every other month to talk about some issue that may be relevant to them, how to wash your hands correctly, what do germs do, those types of things. We have a career exposure every Monday, or 2 Mondays per month at Bellingraph in the after-school program. And so that is a picture of our military month celebration, Faulkner University, and the fire department that have partnered with us on a variety of things. And we have 3 after-school or out-of-school time programs at Bellingraph, Davis, and Nixon that serve out-of-school 5 days per week, an occasional Saturday, and 4 weeks in the summer. And so these are just pictures the various events. They're all career-related and STEM-related activities that are taking place in the schools. And then finally, we had a pop-up pep rally on June 3rd at Oak Park, where we partnered with That's My Child and Friends of MPS, who donated all of the food. Our students received, parents who shouted, I am MPS, and who did live Facebook Live videos, received a book to go home with their children. So we gave out about 75 books. Some of the additional activities that we participated in this weekend, we had a table at the gift with Life Fathers Matters fair. We participated in the Better Parenting, Brighter Futures. We sent 20 children down to the National Flight Academy spring break with a scholarship for each of those students. We implemented collaborative arts grant for after school. We participated with United Way Day of Action. They selected Davis Elementary last year and again this year. So they'll be giving away 100 book bags full of books, usually 6 to 10 books each. We participated in the YMCA Community Day, some other back-to-school events last year. Again, as I mentioned, our Career Exposure Month Day. And finally, something we began piloting in March, which is our central office as advocates for students team, simply trying to provide mentors at Morningview Elementary that they didn't have a mentoring organization in the school, so we wanted to make sure that we recognize that all of our volunteer efforts begin at home. So Dr. Eggleston agreed to allow central office staff to be able to take 45 minutes out during the week to mentor. And so I think we have 5 people who agreed to mentor students. And so we're hoping to continue that in the fall and to further develop that. And so some other supports that we provide in schools.
As the parent engagement specialist, we just had monthly meetings with our parent liaisons, providing professional development to staff at schools about communicating with parents. Summer learning packets to our EL parents at 5 of our schools that had the highest EL populations. And also spoke to parents at meetings. Community engagement included ongoing partnerships with local businesses, higher education and community organizations, seeking funding through grants, donations, and creating revenue sources through donations, grants, and partnerships as well. And on our last slide discussed what we trying to do for 2018-19. We are trying to implement the Parent Teacher Home Visit Program that was partially funded through an A+ grant with the Montgomery Ed Foundation. We have partnered with Trenton State Community College to hold adult education classes specifically for our MPS parents. More focus-based monthly training with our parent liaisons, school-based specific professional learning for teachers at the principal's request, continuing partnerships between this department and the Montgomery Housing Authority, initiate trifold partnerships for all struggling MPS elementary schools. The reform leadership, she spoke of that already, continuing partnership with MPD and That's My Child, and of course, funding and the mentoring forum. And all that you saw, because this is on the last slide, was done with very, 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 very little funding. Any questions?
I don't know if you're the one I should ask, but with you two working together, who is really in charge of the local school sites? Who's in charge of the parent liaisons at the local schools, the high
I work
poverty schools?
directly with the local parent liaisons, but of course, they're under the principal's supervision. But we meet monthly and we discuss strategies, what they're doing, what possibly can work better, bring people in to talk to them about some strategies that they could use under the direct supervision of the school principal.
Okay, you might not be the person I need to ask about this, but it's important that we have parental involvement. But I know some were non-renewed because of Title I program, so if you're gonna have a parent liaison at one school and not have it at another school, I mean, who should we talk to about that?
Well, we mentioned in a meeting with Dr. Moore and Mrs. Ototola, who's over federal programs, the possibility of federal programs paying for a parent liaison at one of the Title I schools. There are currently 43 Title I schools, and out of those 43 this past year, 17 had paid parent liaisons. The others had a parent liaison designee, which meant it was somebody who worked in some other capacity in the school who didn't have the opportunity to provide full support to parents as a parent liaison.
Well, wouldn't you think that in as much as we are trying to have more parents involved, that you would have a person directly responsible for working with the parents instead of pulling somebody from the
Yes, ma'am.
staff?
Liaison at each of our schools would be an assistant principal.
That's an important, I mean, we were cited on some things about parental involvement, so if we aren't gonna have the parent liaisons, then we're shooting ourselves in the foot.
We agree.
When we originally piloted this project, 2.5 years ago or so, I think, I know we were having some mentoring done by local college students and things at Davis and E.D. Nixon. Is that still ongoing?
There's an ongoing mentoring relationship at Davis with the students at Faulkner University, but there's been a challenge with consistency. And so we have focused on providing them with a monthly event where all of the mentors come together with the students, and then we've allowed them to develop schedules that meet their needs intermittently. But we have not had that relationship at Nixon, and because we've changed out of focused community schools and changed to family and community engagement, we've not focused that.
Haven't focused the mentoring
Right.
part of it?
So we don't have the capacity to completely support that effort. There's no one on the ground at either of those schools that can do that.
And we don't have the capacity due to lack of funding?
We don't have people. We don't,
Well,
yes.
because we started out with, I think, a $400,000 or $450,000 grant through the State Department.
That's correct.
I know we did.
What we were told, although it was $75,000 short of that.
Right. And so, and we didn't get that the following year, so that's why y'all are basically living hand to mouth, pretty much. On the academic side at Davis, have you been able, since that's been the most consistent school, have you been able to tell or get any type of idea of whether or not that has helped the children academically?
So we can tell you that the students who participate in the 21st Century program as the after-school program are showing gains.
Right.
But outside of that, there's not a definitive way to discern it.
Okay, so in other words, the kids who were tested 2 years ago and they're being tested now, you're unable to tell.
Because there is no tutoring in place. I mean, outside
Right.
of grant, there's no regular tutoring program at the school level. Now, the after-school program, yes, students do receive additional academic support.
Because the original concept, from what I remember on community schools, that there was extended day and it included tutoring and additional programs. So we've kind of gone away from that concept, I guess is what you're saying, because of funding or lack thereof. Okay. So, because I know any place where community schools have been properly funded, that the academic performance has significantly increased for the students. So until
That's true. That's one of the things that we've, with, for example, the Philadelphia Community Schools, the city of Philadelphia funds the on-site coordinators. And so I'm mention of that.
Right.
To our city government in hopes that they may.
Well, good luck on that. Because I know in Phoenix City, every single school is a community school, Phoenix, Arizona. And of course, the Horler School, which you're familiar with, Philadelphia, you're familiar with. I mean, we hired you because you flew all over looking at these programs. So I'm thinking that is something we ought to be looking at for, because in our meeting with Dr. Mackey, we were talking about academic progress is our main concern and challenge. And what I'm saying, we shouldn't try and reinvent the wheel. If you got a program that works, we ought to look at it and try and come up with the proper funding for it. Because I know we were going to try and grow that program from Davis and ED up to Bellingraph and then on to Lanier, so that we were doing a whole feeder system and hopefully eventually expand it. Sounds like you're trying to expand it to some extent over at Morning View and maybe a couple other programs, but I don't think we ought to throw the baby out with the bathwater. We ought to try and come up with funding for this program because it has a proven track record. I know in New York, I think New York took it on as a pilot program, put it in 50 or 60 of their schools. And so I commend y'all for what you're doing. You're doing an awful lot with very little money, and I appreciate that. But I want us to try and get back to our basic core: extended day, extra food, eyesight checkups, dental checkups. I'm naming off the playbook, and food and really, because you've got in psychological help, just taking the child as a whole. And so that's my speech.
And a means of collecting data.
Yes, got to.
You can always increase with data, but if you don't have the data to say it is working or it's not
Right,
working.
right.
And through our 21st century programs at those three schools, we do have a considerable amount of data because that's required for that grant.
That's what I was
Okay,
thinking.
good.
So,
Good.
Mr. President, if I may, so the 21st Century Grant, that no longer exists, is that what I'm hearing?
The 21st century is a separate grant
Oh, a
that's
separate
being
grant.
provided for each of those sites for after school. So we receive $150,000 per year to run that, I think it's 45 weeks of programming.
Okay, and another thing, just to kind of talk about funding, because I know that's going to be a big hurdle. I was looking at the Mountain Brook page and something struck me. They have a donate page. And I was wondering if our schools or district as a whole, I think they do theirs as a district, where people in the community can donate money as small as $25. And if we have community schools as our focus and primary, the thing that we want to start funding, maybe link that with that. But they had a cute slogan. It was called "Give Today for a Better Tomorrow." And I thought that, and that's what in essence we're trying to do. But that's just a possibility, just stepping outside of the box, being a little innovative and creative and finding another way to get funding until the powers that be and the good Lord will bless us with some funds.
I have a question. You had mentioned that you don't have an after-school tutoring program, but you mentioned the COAST thing on your paper, which was central office advocating, and they're leaving for 45 minutes. Could you elaborate how many central office, how many schools are involved in?
So it was only one school, it was only Morning View. We wanted to start off with 10, but we started off with 4 students. And only 3 of them actually, because we didn't begin this until March, I think it was, so only 3 of our students actually saw or developed relationships with the staff.
So how many staff members did you have
I
leave?
think we had 7 or 8 that signed up, but only 3 went.
Okay. Good program and good idea.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda will be the 2018-19 Student Conduct Manual, Dr. Kathleen Williams.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm bringing the changes for our student code of conduct. You have your copy in front of you. There is a one-pager that you have as a cover sheet that outlines some of the changes that are in the student code for this upcoming year. I want to briefly take you through those so that we can make decisions about how we serve children better for the upcoming year. The first recommendation that has been made is changing the title. So you'll see that the title page now is Student Conduct Manual, and the purpose for that is purely to make sure that we clearly communicate the purpose of this handbook. It goes in tandem with other policies within the district to help communicate to parents the purpose of this. So anything that is not pertaining to conduct, student behavior, has been removed from this handbook. The next page where you have any changes will be on your page 5. You'll see under the section excused absences, number 8, that section has been changed, that when we have students that need to be out for a non-illness reason, that those excuses will be approved by the district. And the purpose for that is to help bring some consistency across the district for what we approve for those excused absences.
Dr. Williamson, you said
Yes.
the changes were highlighted in yellow. I looked at number 3, and it says not to exceed 3 school days, but you didn't mention that.
Oh, I'm sorry. So yes, ma'am, the death of an immediate family, we have that should not exceed 3 school days. And so we made those adjustments for any of those absences because we want to keep a keen eye on our absenteeism data. So anything that we can do to help bring ourselves in line with what the state requires.
Dr. Williamson, my
Yes, sir.
understanding is whether they are excused or unexcused, according to the Accountability Act, they would still be counted against the district.
That is correct. It is all absences. Yes, sir.
That's kind of puzzling because if a person is excused, it would seem as though it wouldn't count against them, but yet in the Accountability Act, we have a situation whereby people can be excused for whatever illness or whatever the case, but yet the district is counted in a negative because the child becomes ill from the absence.
Yes,
I
sir.
think we need to look back, somebody needs to take another look at the Accountability Act possibly.
Yes, sir. So you will see, if we continue to move forward, that in the next section, under for excused absences, your last 2 bullets, we have changes in the second to the last bullet. Parents will be limited to 8 excuses for this upcoming year, where we have had 15 in the past. And the way that the current chronic absenteeism definition is structured, 15 absences is the definition of a chronically absent student, whether it's excused or unexcused. So we needed to lessen that number. And then again, after 15 days, if you look at that last bullet, after 15 days of excused absences, for a student that is driving, we must report that to the Department of Public Safety.
So it would be unexcused.
Unexcused, excuse me.
I did have a quick question before you move on.
Yes, ma'am.
And it's just something that, you know, just working with kids and having seen so many situations. So forgive me if it's not a question that probably needs to even be asked. But what if you do have a child who's a chronic runaway? I mean, that just came to me because we are dealing, some of our absences are kind of in home situations. So in that case, is there something to address that?
Well, for us as a district, we would work through the HR and get the best supports that we can around that family, around that child, so that we can get the child in a safe place, get the child enrolled in school. That's our obligation, yes, ma'am.
Well, wouldn't HMFI be involved in this if the absences are, let's say,
So yes, sir, we do have a partnership with Darrell Bailey's office, and they help us, one, with chronic absenteeism, and they also help us when we have students that have chronically exceeding behaviors, if you will. So you see that agreement as a part of this handbook. And yes, they do help us with that. Okay. If you will turn to page 6. Under section F, makeup work, we have added toward the bottom, you'll see that it begins with when a student is not allowed to attend school pending a due process, and the continuation for that paragraph. We have just added that section so that we can be sure to emphasize that even though a student may have a behavioral infraction, we are still protecting that student's exposure to instruction. And while they are while they're off campus for those days, they should be receiving packets that are directly aligned to the standards that help the students maintain their current skills while the decision is being made.
So you changed may to will.
So
You changed may to will.
they will.
No, because what I'm seeing here, you're saying whenever possible.
Yes, well,
Why-
as much as possible, per the paragraph, as much as possible, a student should receive a packet that is aligned to the current standards. This is actually a brand new section. We did not have this section
But
here at all.
my question is, if that student, you know it, is not allowed to attend the school pending a due process hearing on suspension, why would we have to say whenever possible, because he should be able to receive that standard-based work packet,
Okay.
not with whenever possible.
All
It's
right,
possible
so is
to
your
come to
recommendation
that-
for us to change that to students will?
Yeah,
Okay.
move that whenever possible, because then if he's out, it's possible, he ought to be able to get to work.
Okay,
We can move it whenever possible, and just carry it on to the due process hearing on suspension, that student will receive. Okay?
yes, sir,
Okay.
I have.
One other thing, this is about the packet, and dealing with, I guess, suspensions in this case. What about the students with special needs who need to have, instruction from teachers? I'm just how is a packet really gonna help that child?
So now, keep in mind that this is for that small window of time while the decision is being made, and we're on a timeline for decisions to be made. So as soon as that decision is rendered, that student is reconnected to instruction from a face-to-face, highly qualified instructor.
But then again, it still may, I feel like it may be a problem with that child's IEP. If you can, you can keep it like this, because we can amend along the way. But I'd like for somebody to look at that, just to make sure we're following IDEA
Okay.
and FERPA.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, please, sir, I would like to ask that you leave as is and let us revisit, because if it's a timeline-specific activity and we're failing to meet the timeline before the due process, then we'd be asking our administrators and our staff to put documents together without having enough time to get it done, be breaking our own policy. So if we could just leave that and then maybe let the team reconvene before we make it shall, we wouldn't want to put that on the staff to try to get these things together and miss our own deadlines in the effort of trying to serve students. So can we revisit that?
Yes.
Okay.
If you turn to page 8,
You had another one, the conduct manual, you're gonna address, you just changed the word, that's on 6.
G.
The other-
She just
The other
changed
headline,
the
did
title.
you do that? Where
yes,
you
sir.
changed it?
Check-ins and check-outs, not more than 50% of the class period will be considered. We changed it so that it matched the title
Oh,
of the
yeah.
manual. Yes, sir.
Word again?
On page 8. If you look at item number 3, it has been clarified, students on suspension from any schools are not allowed on any campus. Originally, that said on the campus, so it inferred that it was the campus in which the infraction occurred. So that has been clarified. And then under section, number 5, section B.
But Dr. Williams,
Yes, ma'am.
looking at that, the rationale, you're talking about the MPS campus, would it be possible that they are not allowed on any MPS campus, or instead of just saying on any campus?
Okay.
Since you have the clarification there.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, wait a minute on that, because if you'll remember, we have, when you say MPS campus, I think you should say MPS campus activities, because we use ASU for football games and stuff like that, and if you remember, we had a gun incident at ASU,
And so
and that child was not allowed to go there, and I think if you just limit it to MPS, because if you'll remember, we did a hearing on that kid that had the gun in his car, and we said that he could not go to any MPS activities. So, and we do have MPS activities outside of MPS places.
So put campuses or
Acti- or
Why say
MPS
campus,
activities.
functions? Campus.
Or MPS
Activities.
functions.
Yeah.
And we also address that later on in the manual. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Campus or functions.
Yeah.
Right. Or MPS functions.
Number 5, section B, the wording has not changed. It has just been clarified to indicate that parents and guardians may participate in meetings with an advocate or an attorney, and then it continues with the same language that we have always had about notifying the principal in advance.
Okay, I'm gonna take issue with this. I called Dr. Moore today and had like 4 or 5 issues, and we got it narrowed down to this one, that I just finally said I'm gonna agree to disagree with it, okay? Because I find it misleading and contradictory, okay? Because the very first statement said, it goes through and it says parents, and I have to look at it, we're elected officials, and we represent the public, we represent these parents. And I think a parent seeing this would see it as I do. It states here, it says parents, guardians may invite the participation of an attorney or other advocate, okay? But the principal needs to know, okay? My understanding, talking to Dr. Moore, is that if you look at your next sentence, it says the principal will have the final decision whether or not additional persons may attend the conference. Basically, you're saying that a parent may go out and pay for an attorney, but we're gonna let the principal know about it, but we're gonna come back and let a principal has that right to go, nope, can't bring him in, I'll meet. And even Dr. Moore said, I would advise that principal not to meet with that attorney. Based on, I'm not gonna bring it up in public, but based on some of the things that have happened just in the last couple of weeks here, when MPS knows that they're at fault at something because there's a tape out there or whatever, I think that parent has the right to have that attorney there. And that's just me. And at that point, then the principal should, or Dr. Moore should be able to go, okay, fine. And at that point, we know to have an attorney there. I just think there are some cases, that when you know that we could be in a lot of trouble because of something that an employee has done or whatever, and we know we're in the wrong, I just feel like they have that right, and a principal shouldn't have the right to negate that.
Well, let's place it, my thing is, it would place that principal in a very, a position that would be, certainly might be hopeful for the principal to have an attorney there. The principal is not a lawyer. And if you've got an attorney there that's questioning the principal, I think we might want to even, to move to the level of having an attorney to come in. I can understand the parent not having, but then have an attorney come in, it moves to another level, I would believe.
But then why put that sentence in there? Why even lead that parent to believe? Why say parents may invite the participation of an attorney? If we're not going to allow an attorney, then why are we putting that in front of that parent? To me, it's misleading. And that's why I have a problem with that, just that one part. It's misleading to the parent.
Let me see if I can give you another example. First of all, we use the word may, which means possibly they could, but the principal gets to make a decision. Now, if you have an attorney who comes to say to the principal, Miss So-and-so mom has custody of this child and she will be receiving all information. That's one case. If you're coming as an attorney who may possibly be involved in some kind of litigation, then that's another issue. And in that case, attorneys talk to attorneys. So there are two ways, that's just one simple example. But an attorney under May could come just to say, I represent this family, Ms. So-and-so has legal custody, therefore, all the information goes to this mom. Under another case, if it may involve litigation, that is the case where the principal should be able to say, no, I will not meet with your attorney under those circumstances. So the May gives them the leeway to be able to decide whether or not that is something the principal ought to actually engage in with an attorney.
I'm gonna agree, because I think if you're gonna put May there, then May should go under the principal. May and Will, you're stacking the deck against these parents, and especially parents when they have a tape of what's going on. I'm just gonna, I'll agree to disagree with that one.
Well, can we, Mr. President, can we keep it as is and then have a discussion
Well,
on
Dr.
it?
Rollins has mentioned that these that we're indicating, they're going to go back and review and bring
Okay.
back. Isn't that right, Dr. Rollins?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
We just put an asterisk by
Okay.
that, and we don't review it.
All right. If you will turn to page 11. Under principal's authority, this is dealing with any discipline infractions. The wording has not changed. It was cleaned up so that the handbook title would be reflected correctly, as well as the violation policies were renumbered slightly as we've gone through the handbook. So those two pieces were cleaned up within the principal's authority paragraph. Questions?
Hey, the principal is granted the authority to modify the consequences? Well, you know, that kind of, modify in what point? I mean, the consequences are already
Could you
listed,
speak a
right?
little louder, Mr.
The
President?
the consequences are already listed, right?
Yes, sir.
Well, what modifications would the principal make to a particular violation of a rule when the consequences are already listed out there? What kind of modification? In other words, let's suppose it says, like 1 to 3 days, then he may say 2 rather than 1 to 3.
And
you
so
say-
you see in that paragraph that there are a number of factors that can be considered when that authority can be utilized. So depending on the context of the behavior, depending on the age of the children, so some of those issues may impact. So when you think about the discipline consequences, there are choices under
Absolutely.
those. And so there are times when, because of the age of the child, it is not necessarily appropriate.
Absolutely. I
to
think we
move to
addressed
most.
that last year with respect to the younger kids as opposed to the ones that are older.
Yes,
You're
sir.
absolutely right.
Thank you. If you will look at page 12, we have a few items. At the top of page 12, there is not a change in the meaning, beginning with the end of that paragraph, the classroom teacher may deal with classroom disruptions, so on and so forth. It just clarifies the actions that the teacher can take or will take when there is a disruption in the classroom, including conferencing with the parent, getting any other teacher involved, getting the principal involved, making calls to the parent, so that the teacher has some authority within the classroom for minor infractions to be that first line of defense.
Okay. Now,
Yes,
you
sir.
have here the classroom teacher may deal with classroom disruption?
Yes, sir,
How
because
long
there
would
are,
it Why?
By
Fine.
doing those.
But my understanding is, and I don't know if it's changed, but every teacher should have some kind of classroom, rules, or
yes, sir,
that should already be in place, right?
yes, sir.
So,
But there may be a time when a teacher can handle the situation by, for instance, if my son is disruptive in the classroom
right,
and is not to the level that it is severe, she can choose to call me and work with me one-on-one so that we get that behavior corrected. versus if it's something that is continual, it may be the same behavior, but because she's already reached out to me, it now may progress to the next level, and we need to get someone else involved because it's become a little more significant. But it's acknowledging that teachers have that first line authority and autonomy to use the strategies that they have in their classroom to help with discipline.
Dr. Williamson, I think what he's questioning is the fact that the classroom teacher may deal, she has to deal with it, or he has to deal with it anyway. So just say the classroom teacher will deal with the classroom, instead take the may out and say will, and they have, then he or she has all of these ways that she can deal with it.
Right.
But she will handle discipline in her own classroom. But the way, what he's questioning is the may, because you're not gonna have discipline in the classroom and you're not handle it. So the way you handle it will depend on these, entities that you have here. Would that be all right to change?
May I also add this? I think also to go back to page 11 and connect the sentences at the bottom of 11 with that section at the top of page 12. So the sentences at the bottom of 11
Yeah, teachers
lead
are
into
expected to do it.
the sentences at the top of page 12.
Right, but when you say expect, well, right, but when you say expected, you know, we have those expectations, but then certainly when we come over here in May, the teacher will deal with classroom disruption, like classroom disciplinary action. And the thing about that is, it's my understanding that when we had a set of, you have a set of, in other words, we're going, this from the district here, and the teacher comes up with their classroom set of rules. Well, with their classroom set of rules, for each infraction, the teacher should have already had some kind of consequence or in terms of how they would handle that particular discipline problem. So certainly, I think when I was teaching, it was mandatory that, you know, before you, unless it was another level, you said, great, these are level A's here, and those are not as, you know, as a B or a C. But the A's, those infractions, there, most instances, we were given directives that we should contact parents rather than send them to the office with respect to those type of offenses that occurred in the classroom.
Yes, sir. So what I hear is that the will of the group is for the task force to change may to will.
Good deal, because that's a part of I would say, classroom management.
Yes, sir, I have it.
And I'd like to, you know, I would like, go ahead, no, you go ahead.
Okay,
Go ahead.
I was gonna also say, even though these things are standalone sentences that are corrected, when we separate them from the total paragraph or two paragraphs that are part of this, then it becomes, we're being, I think, a little bit overly specific when we say a teacher will do these things. These are examples of what she may do. It doesn't mean that she will do everything that's listed. So we put will, then someone says, well, it says she will do this, she didn't do those things. Maybe she did one of them. Then the next paragraph, when it talks about the action of the teacher is taken but it's not effective, then it moves to the next level, which is to go and let the principal help out. So she will, it makes her have to do all those things that we listed as examples. When we're giving her some options about, you can pick and choose, and she may have something else. It's an example. For instance, she may do these things. But if we say she will do it, then every time we're gonna say she didn't call the parents, she didn't do this, she didn't do this, so now we got a problem. Whereas we give the teacher some leeway to make some decisions about what's happening in the classroom and how he or she needs to respond to that. Then in the next paragraph, it moves to, if this is not effective, then the student should be referred to the principal or his or her designate. So it gives you a range of things that can happen, but when we say will means you must do these things.
No, it says,
Yeah, it does.
no, it just said, it give you some options. It say you will either call the parent or it will schedule, or can schedule a conference or other staff. So it gives them, if you're gonna take some kind of action on the you will take some kind of action, and then you give them a list of possible actions. And I'm certain that out of these that are listed, and then it goes, et cetera, necessary. So, in other words, I'm saying that something will be done as it relates to that particular rule that has been broken in that teacher's classroom.
And
But
let me
Mr.
say
Porterfield.
this, I agree with Dr. Moore on this, because this was one of the 4 that I called her on, because to me, it contradicted. There was just sections of it to me that contradicted each other. Then she explained some things to me. On the May, what I just heard her say is you can't make a teacher do every one of these. She may do some of them, because when you get down to that last paragraph, it says, after a teacher has exhausted all means of correcting a student's behavior, that was the part to me that was contradictory to, you know, and I underlined it where it said the disruption is so severe. And that is where Dr. Moore explained, Lisa, hello, that would become now a Class B offense, right? And that's what we talked about. And I think here, somewhere at some point, we need to say, or I think
Keep it up
teachers
there.
need to understand that a class, you know, when does it become not a Class A offense? And this is where I think we need to come back to this section as a whole, because how many instances, and I think you're going to, everybody would understand this, do we have a substitute sitting in that role as that classroom teacher that doesn't know the past of that student? And we've had fights. We had a fight at one of my schools. It started in the classroom. They took the student out, took them up to the principal's office for a couple hours, returned them back to the substitute teacher. They get in a fight. Now they're at PACE. And my problem with that is discipline, even though you feel, Dr. Moore, that we're being too tedious, too on this is our number 1 problem in the system. This is the number 1 problem that a teacher is going to say, hey, I haven't got any help. We talked to another principal that stood up at a meeting one time and said, well, you know, there's a protocol. Well, there's some, you know, when you're trying to teach a class and you've got a student cussing you out right then and there, and you don't have the help, we have a problem. You can't send them back to the classroom. So I just think this needs to be revisited on yet another level for teacher training, and 2, the what ifs. What if there's a substitute in there that doesn't know the past history of that student nor what to do? We've got to have some kind of policy to help these substitutes out.
Mr. President, in line with what you and Dr. Keith are talking about, and what the superintendent is, I think, at least how I'm comprehending it, it gives the classroom teacher some autonomy to use some other behavior strategies that she may have in her classroom. She may call the parents or guardian. She may set up a contract with the student. She may have a timeout moment or a quiet time moment with the student. So and then when she has exhausted everything, including what we've put in place and her own classroom procedures, then, and documented it, then it will level up to a Class B offense after all those things. So May is not a bad thing. It's just saying here are some examples, including what else, in addition to what you may come up with. At least that's how I've interpreted it. But I mean, if you want to revisit it, you know, it's still, as Dr. Rowley said, it was still open.
But just like
Yeah.
like Dr. Moore
Yeah.
said, if you read the first sentence that precedes what we are talking about, it gives you the latitude to do whatever is necessary.
Yeah, I see that.
So,
The
I
teacher
mean,
may
that's
deal
a lot of discussion about something that is plain as water.
They just give them some options.
Yeah. But if you look at the first sentence,
I'm sure
teachers are
something will be
expected.
done, but those will be the options.
Yes, sir. So if you move further down the page, Code 9, defiance, disrespect, and opposition to authority. That has just clarified the difference between defiance and disobedience in that section. And then you see toward the bottom of the page, Code 9.1, is a very, it's a newly added section around the content area of academic dishonesty. Academic dishonesty is defined so that everyone is clear about what is considered academic dishonesty as well as what the consequences may be.
Mr. President, if we can go back, if I may address Dr. Williams.
Yes, ma'am.
Code 9, going to consequences, where it says implementation of corrective strategies, is there going to be a process in place for the teachers to know what those corrective strategies are?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. There is a process that comes out of student social services in tandem with our RTI process.
Okay.
Page 13. Under code 16, which deals with cell phones and any other telecommunication device, you'll see toward the bottom of that section, it begins with cell phones and/or headphones should never, you'll see never in all caps, be in use in the hallways, lunchrooms, restrooms, at bus stops. What has been added, or any time on school property unless given permission by school administration.
What part is that? Because that's not on our list here.
On your page 13, under code 16, towards the bottom, it is before the paragraph, procedures for
I see.
confiscating.
Okay.
The fifth bullet.
Yours.
Any questions?
Mm.
Okay. If you will turn to page 18, sir.
Hey, I got a problem. The students are not permitted to use a cell phone or any electronic devices in school. Let's say, students are not permitted to use a cell phone or any electronic device in school. Then we go on to say this includes but not limited to the iPhone, BlackBerry, smartphone, Apple Watch, or any other adaptive tablets. We've already said, well, they're not permitted to use a cell phone or any electronic device in school. Then we come here and say, well, principal has the authority to allow use of cell phones and electronic devices when instruction is required.
Sir.
Is there a question in there? Did he ask a question or just make a statement?
Well, I think I'll be honest with you, I sat on this committee and you actually were there,
I
and
know.
whatever part of it.
Okay.
Okay, you were there.
We said that, I thought we.
But there are activities, you have a lot of teachers with project-based projects in the classroom where they can use their cell phones to do some of the projects, such as, I mean, I know I use it, I'm at South, and they use cell phones on certain projects to do research on. And I think once the principal knows about it, it's something that, I mean, in certain circumstances, they're gonna be there anyway. I mean, let's look at it, they're gonna have the cell phone there. This is used for research basis, and that's it. I mean, I think if we totally, you're taking out innovative teaching strategies if you cut that out.
I didn't say cut it down, I was just looking at the fact that you start out saying they're not ready to use a phone or device in school. Then you come back and say, well, they can use the device.
For instructional purposes during class.
I understand that part. But should we even have students are not permitted to use a cell phone or any electronic device in school when in fact they are allowed to use it for instructional purposes? That's where and then we come here and another one, here I see that, what we have here is that, here cell phones or headphones should never be used in hallways, lunchroom, restroom. At a bus stop, who's gonna stop a child from using a cell phone at a bus stop? You know, that's what I'm looking at, a bus stop. Who's gonna be there at a bus stop to stop a child from using a cell phone?
The idea, Mr. Porterfield, is that, over this past year, we've had a number of incidents with students using their devices inappropriately when things happen in classrooms or at bus stops. So we're trying to reiterate that fact that we expect students to use their devices responsibly. And while we know that we are in an age where students will have their devices, there will be times where, at the principal's discretion, that those devices are very appropriately used for instruction, but that is the only time we expect students to use their devices while they're on campus.
Mr. President, if I may.
Right.
I think we might want to get some teacher input on this because there's been a lot of buzzing from teachers to just
Yeah.
take the cell phones away. They're a big distraction in their classrooms. And honestly, while we're talking about students, we might need to address some of our teachers. I'm just saying. We had an incident, so.
That's gonna be discussed with the compliance monitor piece
Okay.
that's coming up in a little bit. So, let me just say this, in connecting the dots, I have to connect dots, I have little dots in my head and I connect them all the time. But one of the things we talked about earlier was at school functions and school events and, you know, what could happen or not happen with a student. So the bus stop where the kid gets on the school bus is considered to be a part of a school property or whatever. So that piece of, on a school, at a school function or at a school, on a school campus, or the bus is part of the, it's like an extension of the school or extension of the classroom. And so these rules can transfer and apply to those particular incidences, because we talked about the functions in other areas, but then also connecting this to this particular thing on cell phones. That's why, I mean, bus stop sounds a little funny, but, you know, you can get your phone out and call up all your homies to come and do whatever. So that's part of that, so that we don't have any little incidences like that occurring.
Miss,
The bus driver
well, let me
can
ask this
report it to the
question.
principal.
Please, I got one more
Can
question.
report it to the principal, and the principal can deal with it.
My question is, the restroom. So will there be something in place to, you know, to prevent the students from taking cell phones? You know, even if they're using it for instruction and they walk out of the class with it, I just think it needs to be, let me say this, will the principals put a process in place of what that's gonna look like in their school buildings?
I would think so.
Okay.
And I would say this, in all honesty, having been a principal and some other things, it's very difficult to monitor every part of that building,
All right.
because you can't be in all those places at one time. But the rule is in place so that if something should happen in a particular place and the principal or others find out about it, they have a means of dealing with it. But it's difficult for you to be, if you're a principal, you can't be in every bathroom and in the cafeteria, wherever, when classes change. It's impossible for you to be there, but these rules are in place to sort of guide not only the administrators and the teachers, but also the students and their parents.
Right, that was my.
Dr. Moore
Yes, ma'am.
and Mr. President and Chief Officer, we have a lot of problems that could be eliminated with a stroke of a pen. No cell phones, period. Because all of the problems that we have had in our school system has been people with cell phones calling their friends to tell them to come for the fight. And, I mean, we have had problems ever since we have had cell phones. I fought cell phones then and I lost. And so
Well, I did too.
I tried it again and I lost.
They're gonna lose.
But I just think all of our problems in the schools with the fights and people filming stuff that shouldn't be going on in the school building, all of that comes from one thing, the cell phones. And I mean, if we are talking about intervention and all these other things, we could eliminate a lot of our problems if we eliminated cell phones in the classroom.
And I'm gonna add,
In
let's
the
add the
school
bullying.
period.
I mean, that may stop on some of the social media bullying.
That's what I'm talking
Well,
about.
I agree with that. You know,
I just think all of the 90% of our problems started with social media and cell phones. And if you're coming to school, we only have you for 7 hours a day. If you are really doing what you need to be doing in the classroom, we have smart boards. Why can't we use smart boards? I mean, there are other things we can use other than a cell phone. And then we have the problems of replacing folks' cell phones when the teachers take them and lose them or whatever. It's just a big headache.
I agree, ma'am, and this is a big discussion probably for every school system that looks at this section on phones. It's a big issue.
But why don't we bite the bullet
Because-
and do it?
Yeah, let's pilot it for 2019.
Yeah.
See what it does one year.
Just try it for 1 year.
So you're saying no cell phone?
Yeah.
No
No
cell
cell
Yeah,
phone,
that-
period.
is that-
No cell phone, yes.
Yeah, let's
They
see.
can
All of our
Yeah.
problems started with the
Yeah.
bullying,
Hey,
cyberbullying.
remember we tried not to do this before, not
Teacher
have any
bullying.
cell phone? And then the parents said, well, mine ain't gonna carry one no matter what
Hey,
your
that was
policy
the mo-
is. So, you know, that we're.
But I am as serious as a heart attack on
I
this.
am too.
Cell phones is the major problem in our school system, and in any school system in the state of Alabama.
Right.
You're coming to school to learn. If the teachers would implement what's supposed to be going on in the classroom, they wouldn't have time for cell phone. You gotta worry about telling Joe Blow over here to put his cell phone in his pocket or whatever. Some people talking about put them in the basket when you come in the room. Now, the problem's gonna be you're gonna use a lot of time for them to pick up their phones out of the basket when they get ready to change classes, so they're gonna be late for the next class. Just cut them out.
Well,
I don't disagree with anything you're saying about the problems, but I think what you're going to run up against, as Robert said, we've tried this before, and I look at it, it's kind of like our state legislature passing laws that can't be enforced. I think you're just asking for trouble, and I don't think nowadays, they're just part of life, and I don't see how we can tell people that, because you're going to come up with every kind of excuse. I got to call home when I'm sick. You know, I know.
we can do dirty.
It just won't work.
Dirty.
Yeah.
We have it here, whereby they can only be used with the authority of the principal. Now, everything else that follows that tend to say, well, you shouldn't have this cell phone if the principal has not given you the authority to use it. So if you're using without the principal's authority, then you need to go to these consequences.
Right.
The device called parent.
Yeah, and
So,
if you're limited,
lots of
yeah,
times you talk about, well, the principal can't be everywhere. When I was teaching, we were assigned to different areas. I was assigned to the boys' bathroom on my floor. Well, by some teachers need to, some administrators need to be checking these
it's
different places out.
unenforceable.
So we can cut out
Can't
some
do
of
it.
this cell phone use.
Yeah.
So here, first and foremost, the principal has the authority to allow the cell phone for instructional purposes during class.
Right.
And that's all.
All right.
So if they have them on display and they're not in a classroom using it for instructional purposes, then I think it becomes a thing where the custodian can take them up from them, the teachers can take them up, anybody that works for Montgomery Public Schools, the authority ought to be able to get the cell phone and give it to the principal.
I would say you're right. It's a catch-22.
Catch-22, that's where we are.
Well, can we just table it and move on?
Yeah.
Yeah, might as
We
well.
can talk about it all night long.
Okay, let me say
It
this,
ain't gonna work.
in light of what, Dr. Weisman has to do eventually, which is to get this to the printer. So, I mean, we're tabling and we're changing, and I understand that. So, we have to think about, though, the fact that she has to get it to the printer in time to get it ready and back, so that it's ready when school starts in August.
And what's the
So-
date? When are you trying to get in?
We're really up against a tight timeline. We need to get, if at all possible, we need to get it finalized this week so that we can go ahead and get it to the printer. But now, any recommendations that you're giving me tonight, this will be a priority, and we can, at Dr. Moore's direction, we can get it distributed to whomever and however.
So
that
if we
can get a final product.
So if we make the changes that you suggested for the most part on those pages, and we send those out to you.
Yeah.
Sometimes this week, unless there's some other major issue once we get through all this. Would that be amenable to you to receive it that way?
Yeah, that's fine.
That's fine.
Fine with me.
That's fine.
Okay.
All right. So I've captured the changes regarding cell phone. If you turn to page 18. There was just clarity added for code 49, which is the last one on that page, realistic replica weapon, regarding the consequences for when a student has a realistic replica weapon. And so it has been clarified that the consequences for that will be, the choices are out of school suspension or proposal for expulsion. Okay. If you turn to page 23. Under suspension procedures, number 1, you'll see that the end of that sentence has been cleaned up to reflect the current title. Under number 3, it has been slightly amended, a suspended student, and what has been added, or student assigned to the alternative school shall not participate in any school-sponsored activities, both on or off campus, without approval from school
That
administration.
goes right back to the first one.
That takes care of the other one.
Yes,
Take
ma'am,
that other
it
one
takes
too?
care, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, that, I think she alluded to that earlier, that
Yeah.
that was in another section. So,
Right. I see that.
All right. Let's move to page, it may be your bottom of page 27, or it could be the top of your page 28.
27 on mine.
It is the section B, reporting bullying and harassment behavior. And so at the bottom of 27, you see that the principal or designated investigator shall make a written report, and it should say to the chief of student services, because everything bullying resides within my division, and I do the work with Darryl Bailey's office. And we are doing that so that we can have consistency across the district for when investigations are conducted, and to make sure that we're in compliance for everything that has recently come down the pike regarding bullying, new laws that have been put in place, as well as making sure that we do all we can to protect our children and their kids. Last, did I hear a question? Yes, ma'am.
And this, I will not be inserted in there, but I did want to share this with you. I don't know if our schools have, or if our district has procedures on how to deal with bullying, like research-based information. So I went online and I Googled, and I saw something that said stopbullying.gov, that I thought would be a good link to add onto our school website, and it gives a lot, it's just a wealth and a ton of information that will even help teachers in providing assistance that's research-based to address bullying and how to identify. But I just wanted to share that since we were on that.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. And we do use those research-based resources when we're working with teachers, but you can never have enough.
You cannot.
And Kathleen, I just want to mention this, okay? I think Darryl Bailey should know this, in that when you talk about consistency, I talked with Dr. Moore about this a couple of times, including today. We've got to be consistent, because when you have, like, an example, I mean, I think Darryl Bailey needs to know the police department's done this. We had an incident at one of my schools very recently that a parent, that a child, a gun was put to his head with it, I mean, not the same block that the school is on, okay? And the parent called, this was bullying, the parent called the police department. The police said he was a minor, that it needed to be taken back to the school. She went back to the school, the school said no, it did not happen on campus. Okay, I could have dropped it, but I didn't, because over at Park Crossing, we had a similar incident, obviously high school instead of middle school, where the situation, both situations started at the school, the kids took it off the campus, and in the Park Crossing incident, they had a sister to one of the girls actually pull a gun. The sister was arrested. The two students at Park Crossing were sent to Pace, but the ones over at Capitol Heights, to my knowledge, I think we're investigating that, but nothing was done. And my question then, because we as a board have to answer to our public as to, I did deflect the Park Crossing lady. I didn't even call her. I was like, ma'am, this is a good thing. Your child's being, reprimanded at age 16 when they could be in prison. I'd like to be able to say the same thing happened at the Capitol Heights thing. for a parent to be able to call the police and be told, oh, this is a school thing, and the school to go, oh, no, it's not a school thing, again, you have a parent out there with their hands up. And if you're going to do one thing at Park Crossing, we need to do the same thing at Capitol Heights. And it's just consistency. I think that just needs to be noted.
So noted.
Thank you.
Thank you. The last page that we have any changes to, well, next to the last, excuse me, on page 30, you see that the grievance procedures have been streamlined. In last year's handbook, you had this section, and then it went into grievances for gifted programs. It went into grievances when there was general administrative actions. All of that has been removed to leave it with that grievances should be directed to the central office or district coordinator, and then they will be handled thusly. The last thing that you have in your handbook that is a change, the committee added a glossary of terms section, so you'll see that on page 47. And so both pages 47 and 48 reference the terms that are commonly used within the code of conduct, so that we can have clarity across all of our stakeholders. And those are all of the recommendations from the handbook committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor.
I want to compliment this group that worked on it. I sat in with them for about 3 hours and went through a lot of these sections with them, so that we could make it as clear as we possibly could make it, and as accurate and as legal, and all those other good things. And so they did a monumental job of putting this together. It takes a lot of work to get down to the nitty-gritty of trying to make sure you follow policy, procedure, and all the laws that are coming out about student behavior and that kind of thing. So honestly, for you all just to have a few things that you're still concerned about, I mean, I think it shows that they've done a great job in putting this together. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
You'll
again.
have to change this.
Okay, thank you again, Dr. Williams. All right, the next item on the agenda, Pioneer Research Compliance Director Contract, Dr. Ann Moore.
Okay, so, the compliance director is actually, a set of, it's a software type packet that is, that we use in our school system. We've used it before. But what it does is it provides some online training and it gives you records management, which helps the system deal with compliance. And so we have 6 modules: FERPA, suicide awareness and prevention, grading and promotion and retention, the employee handbook, medication training, and leave versus making. And so this year we're adding one other module that we can get with this that deals with the appropriate use of social media and the things that we talked about here for students. This is for our employees, our teachers and others in the classroom. So we're adding that module to this particular item.
I'm glad to hear that. When I read this, it said shall not exceed the fixed rate of $10,000.
Right.
But then I was just thinking it might have been for 56 different schools, so thanks for
Yes,
clarifying
ma'am,
that.
it's across the system, it's
Yeah.
the same thing, they go
Yeah.
on and they do the
Okay.
training, and then
Okay.
they do an assessment.
That was
and-
my only concern.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, next item on the agenda, emergency resolution, Johnson Elementary School by Dr. Ann Moore.
Okay, so we had some flooding several weeks ago, and because of the nature of the work that needed to be done, I worked with Dr. Mackey, and we got an emergency resolution so that we could go ahead and start on the work for that school, so that, the flooring, the hardwood, and all that had to come up and be repaired. And so we got the emergency piece through Dr. Mackey so that we could move on it. And that way we would be in compliance with our bid laws and other things that we have to follow under most cases. But this is an emergency type situation.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Moore. The next item on the agenda will be the October 2017, April 2018 financial report, Ms. Brenda Coleman.
Good evening.
Yeah.
Good evening to the board, to the superintendent, Mr. Roller, and to our stakeholders. If you'll find in your packet, board members, on the memorandum that I sent you, there's an edit to let you know that all bank recs have been reconciled through April and local school accounts have been uploaded through April also instead of March. To our stakeholders, this information that I'm giving tonight has been uploaded to the MPS website, and all you do is log into MPS, go to Finance Department, and click on Documents. Once you click on Documents, you'll get to see all of the financial information that happens in the finance office. You'll also get to see a copy of every check that's ran every month. Okay? I'm going to start with September. That was, I gave you that report. The last report I gave you was in August, and I told you we were working on the September closeout for 17. Tom, if you'll click on September, please. It's at the bottom. Yes. First of all, I want to tell you, in your packet, board members, you have a document that shows the systems allocation from the State Department for fiscal year 18. It looks like this. It's not uploaded up there yet for the stakeholders. And every month, we get $13 million to support our district, and those attachments are there for every month up until April. And it tells you what categories of how much money we get in each one of those categories. For the foundation part, it's like $162 million. The PSF gives us like $733,000, and then we deal with about $80 to $90 million in federal funds. And so you will see attached to your records what we receive every month by the 26th or the 29th of the month. Next, you'll see where the FY17 financials were reviewed and accepted at the State Department. We were late, however, closing out the fiscal year due to several circumstances, and so we just want to keep you abreast of where we were. In the news, it told you that we did not meet our 1 month operating reserve fund balance, which we did not. We failed like $3.4 million, and it was due to several components. Our district has also ended the fiscal year. If you'll see on September, the total fund equity at the bottom here, the $15,570,000 is what we ended the fiscal year with in September. However, we were still able to operate and stick to our mission that Montgomery Public School has adopted as far as educating our children and keeping a staff and operating as we should as a school district. So we did end it with $15 million. Our required 1 month operating reserve fund balance was $19,118,000. So we were short by the 3.5. Okay, Tom, if you'll go to October. October is the beginning of a new fiscal year. It goes from October 1 through September 30th. October 1 is the beginning of a fiscal year for the school district. Okay? At the bottom, you will see, I'm going to tell you, we ended in September. I'm going to be very short because this is 8 months worth of finances. So I'm going to tell you where we ended the year, where we are now, and what happened in between very briefly. So October 1 is our beginning year. Remember, I told you we ended with $15 million, but the end of October 31st, we ended with a total fund equity balance of $13 million. So we had like $2 million or probably a 1.9 worth of expenditures. And these will tell you what our total debt. This is called the F1 report. Tom, will you slide down just a little bit, please? This is called the F1 report. The F1 report is a combined balance sheet that tells you your total assets, liability, and what your fund equity is, for those that's not familiar, with your accounting file. The next sheet is called the F2 report. This F2 report tells you about all of the revenues and any expenditures that I got in all the way across the line item if you want to add up what we actually get in from the state and federal fund sources, so you all of your line items across. If you'll go visit our website, if you have any questions, email or call the superintendent's office. They will get the message to me, and we will relay any answers to you that you may have about MPS Financial. Okay? Okay, that is October. So now I'm going to tell you, November is kind of like October. We're still paying expenditures. December, we began, if you'll go to the December term, I think that is right there. It'll be our third month. It's our third month. December, we began to get in revenues such as our state taxes. You know, when you go pay your taxes at the end of the year, whatever, that's when money starts flowing into the board. We get our portion of it also. So you will see the fund balance will begin to increase a little bit in some of our areas. It's kind of sluggish in December, but it really picks up in January and February, and sometime in March when they get ready for the state sale. So you'll see an influx of money coming in. Always look at your bottom line that says your total fund equity. That will let you know the cash that we have on hand. The unreserved fund balance is the amount of funds that's available to use for the board for unforeseen circumstances. The reserve means that money is already obligated, or there are encumbrances that's out there that has to be paid. And so that tells you what that exactly is. Okay, so that's called period 3. There, October, it starts number 1. So when you see it, you'll see period 1. So you count October, November, December. Now let's go to January. And I'm going to skip February, but I'm going to show you January. If you'll go back and look at our fund balance on the F1 report, our money has increased from $13 million to $27 million. That's because all of those revenue taxes are coming in now, and I have on the board members, if you'll see, there's an explanation for each month explaining what your F1 and your F2 report is about, and it tells you how much of the 1 cent sales tax that we receive for that month. But remember that 1 cent sales tax that I may have received in January would have been for December. It's always for a prior month. Okay? February is the same way. Our money will increase the same way because, again, our revenue taxes are you may see an influx up and down, but as we are paying taxes, we're still paying expenditures out, so we still have to operate. I'm going to skip and go on to April, where we are now. In our April finance, board members, I had to revise the April financial report that you were given originally in your report. I went back and I had to charge each fund source indirect cost. And I had not charged the indirect cost to CNP simply because we were holding out to see if we needed to do a pass-through. And I went ahead on and charged the indirect cost. So that changed our fund equity. Ms. Farley passed out, you'll see as of today, a new revised April financial that may have been sitting on the table where you're sitting now. So the difference in that was the fund balance went up to $21 million. And you can keep the old one and compare it to the revised one that I gave you today. But here on the website, it is updated. And so now you will see that our total fund equity is $21 million. Okay. And the revenues are kind of sluggish. You got to remember that our ADM is down, and so you're paid by that ADM. So every month, our ADM is down, and a lot of grants are being approved and paid for. We'll be receiving federal funds. As we receive them, we'll let you know about them. With the September, when we closed out, any funds that was unexpended in any federal account that was allowed carryover, they will be put into the budget, and you will see that when I present at the next board meeting. And so I just want you to know that MPS has worked hard, all of us. Our financials are all up to date. Everything is posted on the website. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to come by the finance office or call me or call the superintendent. They will get a message to me, and I'll be happy to answer or sit down and have a conversation with you. Are there any questions?
No, I would just like to applaud you. I've been trying to get this financial report for 5 or 6 months now. And it's complete, but I have one, I looked at this, but where is it? I've been hearing that we have the 9 point that the state sold, Georgia, Washington.
Yes, ma'am. It has been
this?
posted to the MPS general fund account. The Georgia Washington property, we have received the funds at $9.8 million. It has been posted to the account. It was deposited into the general fund, and it will be used for the general fund uses and the purpose of educating our children.
Mr. President, I guess,
Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Moore, this question is for you. Will we be presented a plan as to how we're going to use the $9.8 million from the sale, and that will outline what the funds will be used for?
I need to answer that for
Oh,
Dr.
okay.
Moore. I'm sorry to step
I'm
in,
sorry.
but it will be used for the shortfall that we have. Remember, we have a 2.5 raise that's going to be in effective October 1. However, with the low fund balance that we had, and along with how we're going to plan the 19-year, HR and I will sit down with all the units that the district earn, and if we're able to meet all of those units, it will be used to help out with our shortage, and if there's a surplus, to ensure that we stay in compliance with the state regulations of trying to have a 1-month operating reserve fund balance. At least for one time in my lifetime, I would like to see it happen. I am trying to monitor our expenditures and saying yay and nay to some of the departments, and along with Dr. Moore, and I will be working with Dr. Roller. And so right now, there is no set budget for the 9.8. It would just be implemented into the general fund to help us to maintain and to keep the proper staff and operating expenses that goes, along with the school district.
Okay.
Sorry, Dr. Moore, to take that from you, but
Brenda.
Yes,
Real
ma'am.
quickly, just I want to clarify, where you said the new indirect costs were charged, or you put them in there today?
indirect cost.
Yeah, indirect, but under our new one, that's recorded under your interfund receivables, right?
Yes, ma'am, that
Okay,
that
that's where-
increased
that's
it.
where we
It
see
was
the difference.
$990,000 that was
Right,
charged.
so
Yes,
that
ma'am.
accounts for the,
Yes, ma'am.
okay.
That makes sure interfund
Little over
receivables, it
700,
has to be
okay.
posted in the books.
okay, good deal.
Any more questions?
That's it. Thank you there, Ms. Hunt.
Where did that 9 point whatever million come in? Because that one of the.
It was wired into our bank account on last Tuesday, I want to think last Tuesday or last
About
Wednesday.
midweek last week.
Yeah, one day last week, and it was verified, it was wired.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to add one thing before Ms. Brenda leaves. Thank you, ma'am, very good. When looking at staffing for the upcoming school year, you staff this year based on your student enrollment. So that $9 million also will be used to cover any locally funded units that we may have based on student enrollment in our ADM. If we've lost any students but maintained those same teachers, those become locally funded teachers, and that's something that may be used for as well. So I just want to make sure that you guys know Ms. Brenda mentioned that she was going to be working with us, but we're done. I mean, we're ready to move on for the year. When you look at your personnel report, those are the people that we've been acting on, since school's been out. So just so that you will be aware, that also will cover locally funded teaching units that fluctuate every year and have to be looked at and justified and reconciled every year based on student enrollment. And so what you will get this upcoming October on your student count will affect what we do next school year. So last October affects this August. So any locally funded teachers that we maintained will come out of that $9 million as well. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I also need to make a mention that the FY18 budget, I had a call today, wanted to know when was the FY18 budget is going to be approved. It is now being reviewed and edited by the State Department, along with the finance team, of having to correct any edits and resubmit that FY18 budget so that we can keep moving on.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your hard work.
Next item on the agenda is the Star Academy Service Agreement. Dr. Kathleen Williamson.
Greetings again. You have a proposal in front of you regarding Star Academy. The proposal for Star Academy is to be used within McIntyre Comprehensive Alternative School. If you recall that for this year, we had PACE and we had to use PACE-Serve as our punitive site for alternative education, and we had Fuse Academy, which served as our overage component. Next year, both of those will be collapsed into McIntyre Comprehensive Alternative. We want to strengthen what the district has already been providing to meet the needs of overage students, and Star Academy has been the resource that has been selected that will, or at least is being proposed, that will help us bring even more rigor and structure to, are y'all looking for it?
No.
Okay. More rigor and structure to what we are currently providing for students. So in the overage component through alternative, we will have students who are able to recoup 2 years within one. In our partnering through Star Academy, that allows us to have the pacing exactly right and the accountability for those standards. There is an increased amount of rigor for what students are participating in, including hands-on learning, peer-to-peer learning through Star Academy. They will outfit the classrooms for the 4x4 for your core areas, so that we are able to have the appropriate technology and all of the right materials for students to be able to meet these expectations. We will be using blended funds in order to, if approved, we will be using blended funds in order to make this happen. We have already written and have some carryover money, if you will, that might not be the exact term, from our previous High Hopes grant that was written out of our division. We will write for that grant, again, to help support these efforts in our alternative school, along with some curriculum and instruction funds that can be used to help with this effort.
I've got a couple of questions on this. This is a 3-year program?
Yes, sir.
Funding for 3 years?
Yes, sir.
And how did we come to pick this organization?
This organization has been utilized by districts similar in size to us that have the similar population as we do, and in there addressing their students that are overage. So I actually visited this myself in Mobile, where it has been used successfully for a number of years. It is also being used in Escambia County, just to name a couple of systems within our state that's using this to help bridge the gap for kids that are at risk.
Okay, and so the total funding, we paid money up front, basically, right, for 3 years?
Yes, sir.
Or it's not, so it's not broken into 3 payments?
No, sir. The district did consider breaking it into 3 payments, but that would cause us to incur some interest on the agreement.
Right.
So, in us trying to save money, there are different pots that we're pulling that money from so that we would be able to afford this.
I guess my question would be, I read that there's a clause that we can terminate the agreement, but I didn't read anything that we were getting the money back. So I'm assuming if we were not happy with the results, if we terminate the agreement, they still keep all the money and we just don't have an agreement, right?
Well, if you look toward the end of the agreement, we actually do have it staggered to some degree. And so we have that expectation that they are providing everything that we are paying for as a district. Dr. Moore has been very intentional with all of us to be sure that anything we pay for as a district, we make sure that we utilize.
Okay, I just want to make sure that, this is a lot of money. And, paying it up front with no guarantee of results is my problem. Okay.
Well,
And so, Mr. Dean, we have followed the results in the districts that are using it. It is increasingly becoming popular in Alabama. It is also being used in Mississippi and Georgia with very similar populations as we have. And all of the data supports the effectiveness of the program.
Well, it's much needed, and, I'm all for it. I just want to make sure we're getting our money worth.
Right.
And we're
Yes,
getting
sir.
the results that we want.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
and that's gonna be incumbent on us to follow it out to fidelity, as they say. But also we will have 4 classrooms set up with
Yes, ma'am.
furniture, tables, chairs, et cetera, computers
Oh, the
and
technology, yes,
and the software that goes with it, which will
Yes.
belong to us.
Yes, ma'am, as well as the
Oh.
consumables that go along with that, and the training support for teachers so that we have it implemented to fidelity, as well as they will hire someone to work with our district full-time to help with any technical assistance needs.
How soon, Mr. President, if I may, how soon are we wanting to roll this out? I mean, have the approval? Is this something we can table? Because I have to be honest, I'd like to know a little bit more about it. I'm not comfortable with it. But just to get a little bit more information on cost, that Mr. Dean brought up. But just a little bit more information.
We are on a tight timeline because the company does provide everything for us. So they would need to measure those classrooms, they would need to, they custom build the classrooms so that the kids are participating in activities that are best suited for accelerating their learning. We need at least a 45-day period so that we can have the classrooms built, so that we can have the PD provided for teachers, and we can have all of the technology installed. Now, if by chance additional time is needed, and we decide to move with this pretty soon after now, the company did say that they could take us to another site that is already in full implementation so that the PD could happen on site. For instance, in Mobile or Escambia, the PD can happen on site that is already established if we need a little more time for decisioning on our end.
And the reason
I'm sorry.
The reason I asked, because I'm familiar with it down in Mobile, and I know that there were some things that needed to have been tweaked, and they were kind of concerning. And I just wanted to make sure, if we're gonna put money behind this, how effective is it? What would the monitoring take place? What kind of data will we get from it? Is this all computer-based?
No, ma'am, it is
Okay.
not all computer-based. It is a blended model with very much hands-on instruction. I actually went to Mobile to view it myself. You will see all of the data pieces that we are required to capture for students, protecting student identity, but having accountability for how this program is working for us. So many pieces have been put in place to make sure that this can be a very beneficial piece for Montgomery Public Schools and help us in building that accountability for when we say that when children need to recoup 2 years in one,
Right.
that we can really put a stamp on that's really what's happening with kids.
Okay, well, and I know you went to Mobile, but I did call because I don't know, I think it was maybe the person they had over it, I don't know. But there were some concerns, that's why I'm kind of reluctant right now.
I just wanted to ask, you said this is almost $1 million.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so when you say that this is for the program, and then you say in the next sentence that we have to set up things to accommodate this program, well, does this $900,000 include what we would have to do to I mean, it's almost like a lock and key job. When you have a home built, you get the key and everything, you just walk in and do what you need to do.
Yes, ma'am. So at the point, if and when, at the point that you say we are ready to go, a consultant will actually come to McIntyre, do the measurements in the classroom, design those classrooms, render those drawings so that we can approve the design that we choose for McIntyre, and then they will be custom built for us, and a truck will drive them in, and they will install everything, install the computers and everything. So this $900,000 is inclusive of what we need to run that program. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Is there a way we can visit Mobile to see it?
Well, their kids are out now.
Oh, well, I mean, the classes are still set up. I mean, I know they won't share data or anything with
Do they have a
us.
link that we can?
Do they?
Yes, ma'am. I can send you the link.
Yeah, send me the link.
I have brochures, I have links, I have videos where you can see instruction. I can forward all of that.
Yeah, just so I can be comfortable with it.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. I can take care of that first thing.
Okay.
Any
Well,
more-
thank you.
Any more questions?
Thank you, Dr. Williams.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda will be the Finance and Business Administrative Sutton Coordinator, Director Intervention, posted job.
Well,
Well, I guess I can. Okay, that is the, a new job description that,
Dr. Mack?
yes, that was, maybe discussed with you earlier regarding a person who has, who will be responsible for what we're now calling finance and business administration. It's a new job description that, and where this person will have oversight over that whole division.
Yeah, he's already explained, y'all.
Yeah, he did.
Okay, the intervention personnel minutes.
Okay, so they are, the intervention personnel minutes are part of what you will receive tonight
Right,
as
okay.
information.
All right, we can move on to board action items. Number 6,
Okay.
board action items.
All right, board action items. Under certified personnel, we're gonna ask you to omit item number 48. Omit 48, and then I recommend approval of the personnel report, certified personnel, and addendum 1, certified.
I don't, what? Yeah, she made the recommendation for the personnel certified and addendum 1 certified. Do we have a motion?
Mr. President, I move that we approve the superintendent's recommendation for the certified personnel and addendum 1.
Second.
It has been moved and properly second that we accept the superintendent's recommendation for the personnel report, certified personnel, and addendum 1 certified. Any discussion? Those who are in favor, let's see by show of hands. It's 4. How many?
3.
3. Okay. It's not gonna go anywhere. 3, those opposed, same? Opposed? Opposed, 1. Abstentions, 1.
I could approve it if, my problem is what I called you on. I'm just in disagreement with number, oh gosh. It was 134, and it's number 134 that I
In
have,
which group?
certified.
I just
What
had
was
it.
the number?
Number 134.
I just had it.
It's the last one on the certified.
Number 134.
And if we took that off, I could be the 4th person. I just don't agree with that one item.
I don't know anything about that.
That's
Wouldn't disagree. Too much, not enough.
not enough.
No, no.
It's up to the superintendent.
That's, if we took, I feel there should have been more. I'm sorry.
Yeah, would you want to vote on it separately, pull it off of this one and bring it back?
We could, you want to do that?
Pull that 1?
Yeah, I'm fine if we voted on that separately. Just take that one off from me and you've got my vote.
Okay, everything except 134,
Okay.
okay?
Okay?
So we're taking 134.
Uh-huh. In other words, what we're looking at now, the personnel certified with the addendum, with the exception of 134, and that would be the motion. Need that motion? Somebody need to make the motion?
So moved.
Second? You're the second? You want-
Okay, I second it.
Yours.
Okay, it's been moving and properly second that we accept the changes to the certified personnel manual. Any discussion? Those who are in favor, let's see by show of hands. It's unanimous. 5.
Okay. Okay. All right, moving right along. I recommend approval of the personnel report, support personnel.
Mr. President, I move that we approve the recommendation of the superintendent for the support personnel report.
I second it.
Been moved and properly second that we approve the superintendent's recommendation for the personnel reports, support personnel. Is there any discussion? Those who are in favor, say by show of hands. We have 5.
Okay. I recommend approval of the board minutes for May 9th and 15th, 2018.
Mr. President, I move that we adopt the superintendent's recommendation for the minutes, May 9th and 15th.
I second it.
It's been moved and properly second that we adopt the board minutes for May 9th, 15th, 2018. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, those who are in favor, let's see by show of hands. It's 5.
I recommend approval of the bid report.
Mr. President, I move that we adopt the recommendation of the superintendent for the bid report.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that we adopt the superintendent's recommendation for the bid report. Is there any discussion? No discussion? Those who are in favor, show of hands. It's 5. It's 5.
Okay, so this one, E, has to do with the student conduct manual. And you have expressed some changes that you want to make. Would you be willing to approve the manual with the changes
With the accept the change, yeah. I think we
made
can make
and that we send those
Right.
out to you?
Right. I think
Would you be okay with approving it that way?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so I recommend approval of the student conduct manual with the changes that have been recommended.
Mr. President, I move that we adopt the student conduct manual with the necessary changes being made as suggested.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that we adopt the 2018-19 student conduct manual with the recommended, I guess we said changes. Any discussion? Those who are in favor, let's see by show of hands. It's unanimous, 5.
Okay. I recommend approval of the Pioneer Reset Compliance Director contract.
Mr. President, I move that we approve the superintendent's recommendation for the Pioneer Research Compliance Director contract.
Second.
It has been moved and properly second that we accept the superintendent's recommendation for the Pioneer Research Compliance Director contract. Is there any discussion? Those who are in favor, let's see, it's a show of hands. Is that 4?
I don't know.
Well, how many? 4?
It's 4.
Okay. Opposed? Abstention?
Abstention.
1 abstention.
Okay, I recommend approval of the emergency resolution Johnson Elementary School.
Mr. President, I move that we adopt the recommendation of the superintendents for the emergency resolution for Johnson Elementary School.
I second it.
It's been moved and properly second that we accept the superintendent's recommendation for the emergency resolution Johnson Elementary School. Is there any discussion? Those in favor, let's see by show of hands. Is the hand on there? Let's see. 4. 4? Okay, 4.
Okay, and the last one has.
Wait,
No,
they-
it was
Sorry.
5. It was
Five?
5. I voted for that.
Oh, okay, that's fine. I thought you, I didn't see your hand. Okay.
I can make the motion and not vote on it if I want to,
I
just
didn't see
mean
your
that I
hand
have it
there.
up for discussion.
I didn't see your hand there.
Okay.
I
I didn't
see
have
your
it up. I was reading something. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So the last one, I recommend approval of the Star Academy Service Agreement.
Mr. President, I move that we approve the superintendent's recommendation for Star Academy.
Second.
It has been moved and properly second that we approve the superintendent's recommendation for Star Academy Service Agreement. Is there any discussion?
Am I to be clear on this, that this is a lock and key deal? Is what you're saying? everything for this $900,000 we're ready to walk into the school. That's what you're saying?
Yes, ma'am, to implement the program, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And then you also stated to us that it's already been worked in several schools already throughout the state, and you've observed, and it seems to be one that's certainly through research, is one that's working for the children.
Yes, sir,
Okay,
and it's customizable for our district.
okay,
Yes, sir.
right. All right. It has been moved and properly second that we accept the Star Academy Service Agreement. Is there any other discussions? Those who are in favor, let's see by show of hands. We got two, it won't go. So we got two. Those opposers?
What, do it
Opposed?
again, do it
I
again.
said those, I said, well, I didn't say we're gonna help these.
She clarified.
Those who, right, and I thought you seconded, man.
I most certainly did, and you got
Okay.
to understand, I can second it. It
And
just
not
means
vote
that they have-
for it?
Yes, you
Okay,
can. It means
okay.
I think it's worthy for discussion if somebody else had.
Okay,
Check
let's
your
go
rules,
again.
check Robert's.
Those in favor, let's see by show of hands.
I'll
Three.
give 'em-
Opposers, same. Abstentions? One abstention, one opposed. 3-4. Then it failed.
So let me make sure that we're clear, because you would be willing to re-vote if we get additional information. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Okay.
My only no, I mean, I should have probably brought this up on discussion. I just think there are other programs that would be district-wide. We're just taking this to one school, McIntyre, and for $1 million, I would hope that we could spend $1 million on more than one school. And
That
that's
was
my
not,
issue.
that was not my concern, because we know that we have to do something for the students that we have in our schools, that the other students that will be going to McIntyre. And there's a dire need of this type of program. I just don't, and I've asked my questions, and I feel better about it than when I first read it in my packet. But if, these are the children that need us the most. So I really think that we need to concentrate on what their needs are. And because it didn't work in Mobile, it doesn't mean that it won't work here, because it could have been the person in charge of that program. So when she said the lock and key deal, I could live with that. But these are our children that need us the most. And we don't need to be hesitating if we don't have enough information to not vote for it. And when she clarified the things that she said to me about this program, this agreement, our children need this.
Yeah.
And these are the children that need it the most. We do for Magnet, let's do for the ones that,
Absolutely, and I agree with you, Mayor, because when you start looking at this, you're talking about, you say, well, $1 million, but this is $300,000 per year.
we're gonna pay going or
This is
we're gonna pay once
this
going or
is-
twice
this-
coming back, so
This
let's.
is $300,000 per year
Okay,
and over a 3-year period. And I look at the fact that we had some employees that were paid almost, well, $150,000 for one person. Here you are meeting the needs of several children over a period of 3 years with respect to them being placed in a program whereby it can bring them up to where they should be. Plus, it addresses not only academics, but it addresses also, my understanding, the discipline. So you're taking two things you're dealing with. You're helping them academically, you're helping them with discipline and all the other services that are coming along with this. And certainly this amount of money is not just for 1 year, it's for a 3-year period. So it amounts to about $300,000 a year for each number of students. So I think it'd be a worthwhile thing to invest in the children and try to help them move along.
and my thing, and I had to go look it up, but there is a program out there called the iReady program, which is a diagnostic program, which is across the board for all students. That, if we can spend money on this, it is a student, what that iReady program does, it takes these students and diagnostically tells us where that student is right now, and it moves us to where they need to be on a system-wide thing. And I just think we've got bigger fish to fry, and instead of just one school. And I'm all for it, but $1 million when we have other programs that I think are going to help the mass instead of just one school. That's my
Let me-
issue.
Let me just add one thing, and then Dr. Williams, I think, has something she wants to say. But remember, keep in mind, this is not for one set of kids and that's all. This will be a continuous, every year you cycle
Right.
kids in
Right.
who are in dire straits, who are falling behind. So it's not just for one group of kids. Even though it's at one school, the kids come from all of the schools to this location until they can get ahead, and then they can go back. These are not kids who necessarily have behavior problems or anything like that. Some may occasionally be in that class, but these are kids who are behind, different groups of kids over several years. So they're housed at McIntyre, but they will be kids from all over the system congregated in one place to help them catch up and get ahead.
Can we not look at other programs besides this? I mean, I'm fine as long as we just, to cover more students. That's all I want to
Dr.
look
Williams,
at.
I think she has one thing she might want to say.
May I just clarify, I am familiar with iReady, Dr. Keith, and it serves a very different purpose and a different population. What we're trying to do through the alternative, we have a large number of children within our district that have fallen multiple years behind. And it is imperative that we're able to put something in place that is rigorous enough to let them recoup those 2 years and get back on track with their cohort to lessen the number of kids that we have dropping out.
And iReady does that, so why would we not do that?
No, ma'am, iReady does not move children. iReady is a program that is used for RTI purposes. You find out where the children are performing, and then you can use iReady to help kids catch up, but it is not to catch up multiple years within one. So that's the difference. iReady helps address kids who are falling behind on subsets of standards. Star Academy is targeting a child who has fallen at least 2 years behind, and it has been structured to the point that when I finish in 1 year, I now have hope. I am able to exit and go to high school. I am in 10th grade. I have the transitional services that I need so that I can be ready to complete high school in my cohort and go on with the rest of the things needed so that I can be a productive citizen. So they serve very different purposes.
Mr. President, I voted on the prevailing side, but you didn't have enough votes. I move that we reconsider this vote. After the extensive explanation from our superintendent and from Dr. Williamson.
So can we?
I second it.
Okay, it's been moving, well, what we gonna do?
We'll vote
So it's gonna take,
reconsider.
how many of
Back on
us?
the table.
How many is gonna take us? 2 bills, 3 bills, so it'll take 5 of us.
But we have 5 people.
We have 5?
We have 5 people present, so we would need would be 4.
Okay. Okay, those want to reconsider, let's see by show of hands. Where's there, 35, we got it, that's it. Okay, now, bring it back then.
Mr. President, after hearing a detailed explanation of this, and we really need to work hard with the students that will be impacted by this program. And having said that, I move that we accept the recommendation from our superintendent for the STARS Academic Service Agreement.
I second it.
It is moved and properly second that we accept the Star Academy Service Agreement. Is there any other discussion?
One thing, will we be providing information as to how the children are matriculating through the program, how they're moving along in the program, so that we can
Give us-
monitor
Yes,
and see?
yes, and they will be progress monitored more regularly than in our traditional schools. Yes.
Okay.
Those who,
That's a good point, and I heard you, but the overage elementary students, so with this, and I guess I'll ask Dr. Moore, or whoever's more familiar, what are the grade levels that could take?
This one is designed for 8th and 9th.
Oh,
and
8th and
we
9th.
use for 10th. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
the middle school where you have such a hard time, middle school stuff.
Yes.
Okay, those who are in favor, let's see by show of hands. Let's see. Okay, that's 4. Opposed to the same? 1. It carries.
Motion carries.
Now, motion carries. Now we have some scheduled public comments. No, I don't. But we have scheduled, I will read it this time, rules and procedure for participation in public comments. Requests must be made in advance in writing to the superintendent's office by 4:30 on the Tuesday preceding the meeting date. Request must be specified the nature of the business to be taken up with the board and the name of the person who will address the board to be added to the agenda. Communications must be respectful. Discussing specific student or employee matters will not be allowed. Individuals who have concerns that are inappropriate to be solved in this venue are welcome to seek problem-solving meeting with the superintendent. Immediate feedback by the board may not be provided. However, you may be contacted for follow-up by the superintendent or designee. Public comments may not exceed 5 minutes. The board chair has full authority to terminate the remarks of any person whose comments contain personal attacks, exceed the time limit, or are otherwise inappropriate. A speaker may be considered disruptive who continues to speak when their allotted time has ended, when asked to stop speaking by the board chair, or is otherwise inappropriate. If a person fails to comply when asked to terminate comments, he or she will be escorted to their seats out of the auditorium and or off MPS property, depending on the level of disruption. First person we have here, since Ms. K.T. Brown is not here, is Ms. Karen Jones on petition.
Good evening, everybody. We had an incident, and I'm not going to name the name because it's well known, but I will petition you because I created a petition about the individuals. And therefore, I ask that when you all look into the student handbook, that we also make sure that by the time school starts, that the teachers have some type of guidance as well to model behavior for the children. And it's very sad, that situation, because I spoke with the family, and the young man now is in treatment, because it really was disturbing. And when you read the comments under the Change.org petition that I created, this is an ongoing systemic issue, and it's a pattern in practice, and it was just captured by somebody. And you all you probably don't know because you're not on all these social media websites. And when we discuss cyberbullying, it applies to adults as well, as far as the cellular phone use. That's a big issue, not only with students, but with the adults as well. So we have to look at it at an overall angle and try to get some input from the parents and what are their concerns, because when we're making the code of conduct, we're leaving out the most important stakeholder, that is the parents, because they know the real life issues. So why are they sending cell phones to take pictures of the food or whatever is going on to show parents? That's why I'm hungry when I get home, because they served us this crap. These type issues, when we're coming up with the code of conduct, we need to get out in the community and ask those parents, because if you really want parent engagement, you don't wait until they come to you, because most time when parents go to the schools, people looking up and down at them with tooted noses, and they don't want to be involved. If they come with a bonnet on and pajamas, at least they there, So we have to consider that, and when we having these face type issues, Jesus walked. He didn't just, have a church. He went through the community. So let's do communities in schools. Let's get the parents. You don't have to pay anybody to be a parent liaison. A lot of parents are unemployed and will be willing to go to that school if you ask them. That's a lot of issues nobody asks the parents. You have 30 minutes. 45 minutes. Some of these parents work at places where they'd be willing to give us sodas or ice cream. That's what we did when I was in Decatur. You have to make these parents feel like they're worthy of being engaged and involved. And that's why a lot of anger and tension is around here now. It's very sad. And also when we're thinking about teachers who violate children, we just don't want them fired, terminated. I suggest that we ask for their revocation of certification, because usually they go to another school. And usually we bring some of those same pedophiles, I call them pedophiles, back and just change their schools.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I want to take an opportunity to remind the speaker that we need to make sure that we don't make statements that take into consideration good name and character of any employees. Thank you.
And I would like you all to take in consideration, I didn't name any particular body. We know that this is the truth. We have individuals who have been charged and convicted, and they are pedophiles. And so when we're looking at their teaching certification as a board, we just don't want them to be transferred. We don't want them to hurt anybody else's child, wherever they may be transferred to, Georgia, Tennessee, Mississippi. We need to start looking into that, because we've had some individuals who we know are back in this school system. And so also, would you please look at the overage elementary students? Because being 10 years old in the second grade, by the time they get to middle school, it's too late to go to the overage academy. You know, we need to look at that. It's real issues out here when we're thinking about the code, the handbook, that we as adults have to model behavior. I appreciate the transparency with the finances, really do all the hard work. We need that in an overall place that we come together in love and unity, because we're losing our children. They are dying. I'm tired of seeing them on Crime Stoppers.
Okay, thank you there, Ms. Young. At this time, Ms. Pitts, if you would come forward. I believe you have some introductions to do for us.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I will be very brief. I know that the time has been a little bit long, but I think this part, just as everything else, is well worth it, because you need to know who our leaders are in the school. And what I'm going to do is briefly introduce our 3 principals that are here, that the board just approved. And I'd like you to stand. If you'd like to come have a word, you can. I'll give you the opportunity to talk. You all hear me talk all the time. So the first person will be Lolita Osborne. Originally, Chisholm was scheduled to close. It is not closing, and she will be the principal back at Chisholm.
Good evening, Dr. Moore and board members. I said I wasn't going to say anything because I really don't like to talk in front of people. I talk in front of little children, and I talk in front of my staff, and I enjoy doing that. But I am excited and elated about the announcement to keep Chisholm Elementary School open. I believe that there's a reason and a season for everything, and there are great things happening at Chisholm Elementary School, and I greatly appreciate the opportunity to continue the process and things that I've started at Chisholm Elementary School for at least the next 5 years. And I believe in 5 years you will see that there are so many great things happening at Chisholm Elementary School that it possibly might be on the table to say, no, we're not going to close that school. Let's look at what's happening. So I am Lolita Osborne. I'm the face of, not Chisholm Elementary School, but as the principal, but the face of MPS. I grew up here, went to school, kindergarten through high school, and I do have a true passion for the children and the teachers in that building to see those children succeed. So thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Next, we have Tiffany Sissom, who will now be the principal at Seth Johnson Elementary School.
Good evening, Board and Superintendent Dr. Moore. As Ms. Osborne shared, I didn't know I was going to have to give a speech, but again, thank you. I'm so excited about my new placement at Seth Johnson. Floyd Elementary was my home, and unfortunately, we closed. I started my intern there, I taught there, and then I came back as principal, and that was truly a family environment for us. But at my new home, which will be Seth Johnson, I am excited. I do plan to continue to have an open door policy at Seth Johnson because I want everyone to feel like they're valued. And we will make academic improvement like we did at Floyd. I'm a hard worker, and I'm dedicated to the boys and girls of Montgomery Public School because, as Ms. Osborne stated, I'm also a product of Montgomery Public Schools. So thank you so very much for this opportunity.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
And finally, we have someone that's brand new to our system, Mr. William Conyers, and I think you're the 4th. Okay. and he is going to be our new principal at Johnny Carr Middle School.
How are y'all?
Hello.
I got excited when I got offered the job, and then coming down here and listening to how passionate y'all are about the issues and doing what's best for kids, I'm even more excited about getting started. So July 1 can't come quick enough. So thank y'all for that opportunity, and can't wait to hit the ground running with you guys.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. Oh, Dr. Moore.
Before we dismiss, I would like to commend the board on our comments and the way we conducted our meetings tonight. Everybody had an opportunity to say what they thought, what they believed, what they're passionate about, and it was a very good meeting, very good discussion, a lot of give and take back and forth. And so I just want to compliment you on that and tell you I think you did a great job.
Thank you, Mr. Dr. Moore. Hope the word gets out.
Well, with that, with that being said, before you hit the gavel,
Yeah.
you know we have to,
Tuesday, July 17th, 2018.
hold on, I'm recording for y'all.
5 o'clock.
We have to schedule our board, whatever, with Ms. Salters
Oh, yeah.
as well. Ms. Salters, Susan.
Oh, they're working.
Renee.
Okay, okay.
And if I can, I just want to say this. I thank you. This was the first meeting that we were allowed to, nobody stopped me. It was just the first, if we could have board meetings like this every time, I won't be on the front page saying I'm the bad person.
We'll do our best.
We'll do our best.
All right, and now when is our next meeting?
This meeting is adjourned.